Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's RFK Refugees with your only host for the day, John. I asked, Ted's on vacation, so everyone say congrats to Ted for not being here. I am following him out the door in a couple weeks, but I asked for some questions to do a solo show. This will be a short one. I don't know that this will be entirely great to listen to. So I'm sorry about that, but you got to do what you got to do. And to the Patreons who are giving us money for us this show, I really feel like you're not getting your money's worth here with 50% of the show hosts. But let's get into this. I think it's going to be like a 15-minute show. But thank you for all of your questions and comments. I would say that uh they did not bring joy to me, but they're certainly where everyone's head's at. So I'm okay with that. I'm fine with the real deal. And if you're watching on the live stream, I can get into your answers and I can answer your questions there too. Or try. Before we get started, I have to talk about Alaska. Uh, because on our Discord, three people found out that they are all from the same very small town in Alaska. And I don't know what the odds of that happening were. I feel like they were low. I feel like they were very low. But they all found themselves in the RFK Refugees Discord. So are we the preeminent Alaskan RFK or Alaskan DC United podcast? I think I think probably. I think it seems like that's probably likely. So this was for them. They were very excited about it earlier. So do we want to talk about the show? Or do we want to talk about the game? I guess we could. I will quickly run through my general thoughts. This team is cooked. They are very tired. They are playing with a youth team manager with no staff, and they're waiting for what the next thing is supposed to be. So you can kind of tell that that's the situation. The first half they came out super flat. Second half we saw about 15, 20 minutes of sort of interesting attacking soccer, but uh, Austin's goal, the first goal, was on Peralta, just sort of standing there. Uh, did I say Peralta? That's a brain dive from the previous years. Uh, Midfield was standing around. There were cones, and then a ball got played on. Bartlett got beat on speed on a through ball, and that's what happened. Second goal, Randall Leal was also a cone, but he couldn't jump, so he got monster truck. He got monster dunked right on top of his head. Peglo scored a goal that to me seemed strange because it seemed like all of Austin forgot that they were playing soccer and also that Peglo was invisible. He was just in the box in about it looks about 15 feet of space, and had patience and scored a goal, and that was great. It gave us a little bit of feeling of maybe this game is not completely over yet. And then Austin scored a goal again, which was just a situation where it was a counterattacking goal. Austin would basically wait to draw out a DC United defender who would overcommit. They would lay the ball off or square the ball, and they just walk the ball into the net essentially. Benteke score was offside on the Pirani goal, which seemed clear to me. VAR confirmed. The last goal for Austin was just dead leg defending. I think Bartlett sort of you could see in his expressions like he was just sort of going through the motions and trying to chase down the ball. Hopkins tried to score an outside of the boot goal, which I love. The Quaresma, I think that's great. And then, of course, Benteke earns his penalty and scores. So that's fun. Final score 4-2. That was an offensive explosion by Austin, who was missing their top scorer, who has not scored this many goals, I believe, all season. We had sell the team chance. We had a guy with a sell the team or levy and out T-shirt in the stands right behind the bench. Things are not great, and I think you can tell by the questions I'm about to read. They're not going great. Nicholas says, "Thanks for going live with another therapy session." It's for all of us. It's talk therapy, except for I'm the only one talking. So I don't know how I'm going to feel at the end of it. Uh, so let's just get into it, I guess. I mean, let's just do it. Brent A. Moore says, "Will DC United get the wooden spoon this year? It is looking more and more likely. Montreal won this week. I believe we're 4 points from bottom. LA Galaxy still sit at the root of the table, but I feel like it's very easy to imagine them with the talent they have on their roster getting a couple more wins, and it's very easy to imagine us Not. Obviously, the new coach is coming. Obviously, or maybe not so obviously, we were told that there will be new signings. Timothy is also waiting for the summer signings. We'll see. I mean, I think it's I think I would anticipate it's more likely to me now that we will get the wooden spoon than any other positive outcome. That's just sort of where things are headed. It's going to be hard to turn this team around. I mentioned already sort of the fact that this team is on some sort of weird purgatory situation where they're waiting for coach. They know who's coming. We have no player rumors of any substance to hang our hat on. It's just dire. The only thing that you could say is Mateus Click was hanging out on the field after he was recently cut by Atlanta United, and I guess we're still paying him. So maybe that's the move. I don't know. I don't. Will that make any difference at all? It will not make any difference at all. But I mean, if you're paying the guy, I don't know. And also, if you're not going to sign another DP, I don't know. Nicholas asked where we can buy a Levying out shirt. I will pay a premium. I am sure that some enterprising gentleman will be selling these probably pretty soon. That would be an RFK Refugees merch move, wouldn't it be? That would probably be pretty smart. Not that smart of us. All right. Next question. Hoya's DCU says, which player seems most checked out? Which player still seems committed? Uh, it's always tough. So this is all going to be about body language, right? I would say Herrera looks a little checked out after the red card. I am sure that I am giving him a little bit of unfair. Uh, you know, once once a player does something, they have the recency bias where you think, oh well, this guy just doesn't care anymore. Look at that Carroll's red card. But maybe that's not the case. But I imagine he's had a long summer. Obviously, he had Gold Cup games. He was carrying his team on his back, and then he has to come back here and try to do the same. But I'm still going to go with that. I'm going to go with Herrera as being the player who is checked out, who is still in it. By the way, Peltolo was the player that I was talking about before. That was a cone. Who is still in it? Brendan Cervania is going to be my guess that he is still into it. That's there. I'm looking and trying to think if it could be anybody else, but I think that's probably it. Lucas Bartlett is certainly trying. He just had a pretty poor year from my perspective, and there's nobody else. Barraza, maybe. I don't really see him screaming at people. I don't know how you judge if a goalkeeper is still has a set in the ball game, but that's I'm gonna say Herrera and um, that's Kojima. Also, kind of looks like when he's playing, he's in it, but it's tough. It's not a lot to be happy about or a lot to be enthused about if you're a player on DC United right now. I really do think it's crazy that there is a youth team manager with no experience being the interim head coach for however long. They said they hope to have Rennie Whaler on the bench for the next game. We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Uh, Brennan Cartwright, man of 1,000 good questions, says this team could potentially, and this is something we've talked about on the show before. This team could potentially have 3 new DPs between now and opening day 2026. If they all hit, it could actually improve the other players on the roster too. Do you decline Benteke's option since he's getting hurt more often? And if so, do you trust the front office to land an effective replacement? This was my question from the start. Once you start thinking that you have uh, inadequate player evaluation, which is, I think, when you look at the players coming in, you could say there have been quite a few misses. We've detailed those numerous times now in the month and a half so since hope kind of died. You could say there was lots of circumstances there. You could blame ownership and their lack of investment. All valid, but we'll see. It's a bit of a question there. But do you decline Benteke's option, or do you roll the dice that the front office is going to be able to spend the type of money to get you a return of Benteke's quality when he's on the field? That's so. I think my question or my answer to that would be: do you think Benteke's health problems are going to repeat next year? He is getting older, certainly. A big, strong guy has there's what did they say? Fat doesn't get pulled, but muscles do. He's a big, strong guy. He's been having some lower body problems. Nothing, no huge, serious injuries, but a whole bunch of sort of muscle, soft tissue injuries. I could certainly see the argument for saying, if we're going to hit the reset button, let's hit the reset button all the way. Let's have all the assets available here. The problem is, if you think that the front office is cheap, do you and, all right, so now all of our goals, our entire offense is now gone. Because when he's on the field, he still scores. He scored last night or this last weekend. All the offense is out the door. And you're saying, all right, go spend the money for the transfer fees to get the players that will come in and constitute an offense for us immediately because that's what we need. I don't know. I think you probably keep him and you roll the dice with his health because you know that he is a known quantity and will produce for you when he's on the field. And there's not really any other player on the team that you can say that dependably. Pirani is a known uh, tail half of the season where he wakes up and starts scoring goals. Maybe he likes the heat. I don't know. He's scored a lot of goals. He still is not a creator. We've talked about that too at length. That he's still not the 10 the team needs, but that there's that. I would say that I would keep him personally. Uh, Brennan Cartwright also says, "Is Kevin Flanagan the least charismatic person that God ever created?" Has to be, doesn't he? I mean, I can't imagine sort of the context of him coming. I know when he signed, he was a youth academy director at Nashville. Followed his buddy, got the job here. I don't think in a million years he thought that the third. It's like the Senate pro tem all of a sudden becoming the president. It's like that show with Jack from 24 where he's the president. It's like that, and all of a sudden he is now the president. Uh, so I don't know. I don't want to ding him too bad, but it's not. He's not firing up the boys. I would say probably. Brendan Cartwright also says, "I really can't see how this team can develop players without an MLS Next Pro team, which we have hammered on, which makes signing academy players hard and removes whatever small advantage comes from a high draft pick. So, are we getting one next year or what? All quiet, all quiet on the Western Front on that. I think that next year they've got to just make the team, and wait for the Baltimore Stadium and whatever else they're going to do. That's a problem for tomorrow. You got to at least put a team together. I feel like that's a necessary, has to happen thing. How much money could it really cost? Not a lot, really not a lot. And if it's about, you know, I have to imagine, there's maybe some challenges with finding spots for this team to play. They could play in Arlington. They could play anywhere. No one's going to come see these games, so it really doesn't matter. I'm not sure. I am certain that MLS Next Pro has like a threshold. All leagues have a minimum threshold for places you can play, for locker rooms, for all the things that are required. So negotiate that, figure out whatever the minimum viable product is, and start it. And then if you can convince Baltimore to give you money for a team that no one is going to watch up there too, great, I guess. I'm not from Baltimore, so it doesn't bother me personally. I have lots of friends from Baltimore. I don't think they would go to the games, but so yeah, you got to do it next year. Gavin Turner, who got no minutes here and has gone to Chattanooga and plays every game, almost 90 minutes, which, by the way, we got to take a quick moment and say that that's not been a given historically for DC United loanees. So good job there. But yeah, he's got a goal and an assist, and he's playing every game. So an ex pro team would be nice. It would be nice for a lot of the players on our team. Jacob Murrell could maybe develop in some way as a player if we had an ex pro team instead of what he's doing on DC United's bench week in and week out. All right, now when we get the really heavy depression here. Brandon Zebron says, "Can you give me a reason to care about this team or the season right now? I used to watch every game or record ones I missed and stay off social media so the score wasn't spoiled. Now the games are background noise if I'm even watching at all." Brandon is also a Patreon, so I have to say thank you for that. And I understand your feeling. Can I give you a reason to care about this team or season right now? Not really. No. I mean, I would say Ted and I have this conversation pretty regularly. This is a Stockholm syndrome situation that we're still doing this show every week for a team where you can pretty much guess the outcome before the game starts. It's gotten that bad. Uh, you know, there is something to be said that, this Rene Whaler, who Timothy on Facebook or YouTube says he heard that he got his visa, he can turn things around in some dramatic way. That whatever is going to happen for the next 2 years with DC United's highest paid coach in its history could be a positive thing. Certainly our most accomplished manager that we've ever hired, or we've hired, uh, for a long, long time, for as long as most people who are listening to this show have been watching this team. Uh, so that's something to be excited about once it starts. I assume they will sign someone in the window. I don't know if it's going to be anyone that really excites you, but there's that. I don't know, man. I don't know. You sometimes there's like a there's we talk about our listeners of the show, how we're all sickos for still doing this, for watching these games, particularly when it's like a West Coast game and we're up at 1 o'clock in the morning watching this game, watching this team. Um, I think there's a camaraderie in watching something that is garbage. Like we are experiencing this thing together, and it's not the player's fault, whatever. But like we are all, it's sort of like gallows humor. I feel like the game chats when they're people in there are pretty fun. That's another plug to join our Discord because it's pretty fun in there. We're all sort of going through the same thing. There are, however, a lot of season ticket holders who are done. They're out. I have seen more, and I'm inclined to believe what I'm seeing on the internet and not just, you know, just people talking because that's always been like a historical thing. Everyone does that when the team's bad. I'm getting rid of my tickets, and then they renew when something happens. But I have seen more and more and more people say that. Like early 96ers are just like, I'm out, I'm done. There's no point in this anymore. So I don't know. It's tough to find a reason right now. We are all holding on with our fingernails to have something that is exciting to talk about where we're actually analyzing the game and the players and their performances. But right now, there's just really not a point. I know there are new DC United podcasts that have started during this season. There is one that started like 3 weeks ago, and I gotta say that is wild. I'm glad that they did. It's great to have more voices in the area, but like to watch this team right now and be like, this is the moment. We're gonna talk about this team now. I wow. Wow, bad time for them to start, but now it's only can go up from them from here. It's only more and more exciting things to cover. Next question. Jolly Anthman on Blue Sky says, rather than playing the Ethiopian national team, I think DC United should go on a tour of the USL. Prove to their fan base they're better than that level of competition, which they won't be, but at least it would be fun/funny to watch. Yeah, this Ethiopia game is going to be interesting. They have already said they're going to play their reserves. So Jordan Farwatch, he probably play this whole game. And then I'm trying to think of like play. It's always funny when people are like, you're not playing the right players. Like if you look at this bench, there's not really anybody that you're like, he's not getting enough minutes and he really should. I would hope Jacob Murrell gets a lot of time on the field. Garrison Tubbs plays 90. Jordan Farr. I mean, that's it. I don't really it doesn't there's no other changes to make where I'm like, this guy is not getting enough minutes. Uh would DC United beat a USL championship team? Well, we have the Open Cup, the Charleston Battery game to give you a little taste of that, where it took until extra time to come out victorious. And Charleston Battery is, I think, like in the top third of the table in the Eastern Conference at that time. So yeah, I guess it depends on who you draw. I feel like we probably could beat up on League One, maybe. I think Benteke against the Kickers for full 90 would be kind of interesting to watch. Other than that, I would be very interested, unless you have a stake, like a rooting interest for Ethiopia, and want to just see their national team up close and personal. I'm very curious to know of our listeners who's going to go to that game. Please send me pictures if you're there. I think it will be likely pretty empty, but maybe not. B Hustle on Blue Sky says no playoffs in 6 years, no wins in 9 in the playoffs. Constant coaching carousel. Homegrown sold or sidelined. Media coverage vanishing. Absolutely starched at home on legacy night. Fans divesting emotionally and financially. Is this the lowest point in DC United history? Please debate with yourself, I guess. Well, see, I told you the questions were not going to get any more optimistic, and I've delivered on that promise, I think. Is this the worst season in DC United history? We've had quite a few in the last while, quite some while. Uh, I think it might be. I think it is, and I think we talked about this in the past that it's made worse by the fact that we had a lot of hope and we had really bought into the vision of the reboot, and that we weren't far away. We were never told we weren't far away, but that was sort of what most people believed. And the fact that Troy's out the door, that we've got a coach that they were looking at for weeks along the time to bring in, that we don't have any sort of idea from Allie about the players that they need to bring in, where the talent deficits are, where we are financially, both from a salary cap perspective. We have a good idea about where we are on the numbers, but like the whole argument before had been, all right, well, we're making all these moves to pay off the transfer fees so that next year we have a lot more flexibility. I'd love some confirmation of that. I'd love some sort of like, yes, that is true. We paid off our credit card, and now going forward, we can be more aggressive. And I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear about the type of players they're looking to get, and then I would love to hear about the next pro team, like what the vision is. There was a letter that came out from the Saputo family about Montreal. I'm going to call them Montreal Impact because that is their name to me. Um, and they were basically just like, this wasn't good enough. We know it's not good enough. We're gonna make changes, which they've all will say, of course, except for our ownership. I've talked about a letter that Jason Levian wrote while Ben Olsen was still there after the season ended, one of the many bad seasons, and he was basically saying, you know, Dave Casper and I say that this won't do it. We have to make changes. They don't, fans don't deserve this level of performance. We're going to make things better. Did they? I better than that was, I guess probably they did, but that's not something forthcoming. Jason Levian not saying a peep right now, letting Ali Mackay theoretically take the bullets, but Ali Mackay isn't also being very communicative either. It's just very strange. I guess you never want to admit sort of how bad things are, but I think I would respect honesty. I would respect some realism from decision makers on this team. And I still want maybe I do. I want new ownership. But while have old ownership, it would be great to hear from Jason and Steve Kaplan a little bit more about what's going on. What's the plan here? What are we doing? What's the vision? Nicholas on YouTube says, I'm going to the Ethiopia friendly for one huge reason. It's an early kick, so my 5-year-old son can make it before his bedtime. It will be his first DC Night match ever. Am I raising a sicko? You're raising America's future right there. I'm very glad. I'm very glad that he's going to get that. Keep the again. I almost said keep the ticket stub. That's not even something you have anymore. Keep the pass in your Apple Wallet as a memento of that happening. That's a good. That's a funny story at least. What was the first soccer game I went to, Dad? Well, it was the Ethiopia game. I think my daughter's first game was Orlando at home. I think we won and Click scored. That was fun. I hope DC United beats Ethiopia for you. All right, next. Simply B1 says, is it possible Ali Mackay is amazing at his job and DC United culture is what ruins the player? If so, what one Mackay signing, transferring out, and getting into amazing form at another team would be the most supportive of that hypothesis? For me, it would be either Enow or Baji. Interesting. I didn't read these ahead of time, by the way. So you're getting a top the dome response. I don't know that DC United culture is what ruins the player. It's hard to fight that because we've had such pervasive and continual decline. There have not been a lot of players who have left here and done wonderful. There have been players that have been thought to have been done, and then they're very much not done. Uh, Brendan Heinzike getting the assist against us last weekend was pretty good considering he was let go because his hip broke and they thought he was just never going to recover, and he's been playing ever since. What would be the most indicative of a player who leaves here and I would say Matty Peltola going somewhere else and killing it because he came over here, a young under 22 player, on pretty decent high wages with the idea, same as June, I guess June would be another one, that he was going to come here for a year or two, crush the league, and be sold to Europe for a profit. So I would say that, his game has not really improved much at all in his time here. So that if he goes and then instantly develops for another coach, that would be proof positive that maybe something stinks in Denmark or whatever the saying is. He also asks, do we have any idea if parts or all of the team are seeing a sports psychologist? I hope so. I know that the Spirit players do that, and up until Michelle Kang bought the team, they were doing so on their own dime. Now Michelle Kang has a team, a retinue of 1,000 people they can speak to at any given time, I'm sure. Have we gotten any sense of what the locker room vibe is between the team? Nothing official, and I'm not covering the team in person at the moment. Just not something in my life at the moment that is possible. I've seen people write comments on Reddit. I've seen people write comments on Soccer Insider, RIP Soccer Insider, um, intimating like they've had conversations. There was a player at an event, and they're basically saying that there's no motivation within the team. They're just very demotivated right now with the academy coach there, and no one's really running training, and they're all just waiting to see when the next shoe is going to drop. And there's people that are saying that some someone said that they were at the game and someone whispered, a DC United employee whispered, "Sell the team" in his ear during the chant. Okay, maybe that happened. Certainly, I feel like there aren't enough of us to like make up stuff, do like fanfic. So it probably happened if they said it. It would be weird to make it up for the small audience that would read it. But I gotta imagine the vibes are as bad in the locker room as they are on Reddit and on Discord and on the comments of this podcast. Slide Tackle 84, is our training staff awful? I feel like we keep having the same players get the same injuries every year and it takes weeks to bounce back. Then we write off players who we will say will never come back and see Andy Nahar and Heinzike bite us in the ass every year. There was a time where we had like 9 sports hernias at RFK. They have changed out. I mean, listen, DC United, if you go back far enough, there is a long history of the medical staff misdiagnosing concussions, speeding players back before the protocol was even a thing, and then players having to retire due to post concussion syndromes and things like that. I worry for Steve Birnbaum still because he's like the last sort of multi collector of concussions with DC United. These questions are always tough because to have a real frame of reference, obviously you can look at stats, you could look at like minutes lost to injury, and we can see where we stack up. I don't have that in front of me. But the challenge is that if you're not watching every team as close as you're watching your team, yeah, it's going to seem like your team has the biggest injury problems. It's the same thing as like red cards. Like my team always gets red cards. Um, I think Andy Nahar is a thing. If you've listened to this show before today, you know how I feel about Andy Nahar. You know how I feel about the fact that he is now making $280,000 in Nashville as the best right back, probably outplaying Mr. Herrera. Uh, it sucks that happened. I think the relationship was a bit poisoned there. Andy had been asking for a raise for a while and also was getting injured more here. We did not want to see a a fallback to his long-term injury past. But so far, fingers crossed in Nashville, he's doing the thing, getting still being underpaid. I don't know who is I don't know if is Mega Ludis still his agent or is somebody else. I don't know. I feel like he is the most underpaid player in MLS. I wish he was underpaid for us, but I don't know that he'd be having the same kind of year for us as he's having for them. A few more questions left. Boss Fly says, has WAPO announced the new DC United beat reporter? Will coverage diminish with Goff's departure? Uh, no, I don't think so. Steve Goff says that Thomas Floyd and Ella Brockway will be covering the team. I don't know if that means they're covering every game. I don't know if they're going to alternate. I don't know what that means for road coverage. I think I saw there was a Matt Doyle asked on Blue Sky, do DC United have any people that follow that team anymore? Which fair. I get it. Totally fair question to ask. I think Jason Anderson, there were 5 people in the press conference post game, and there'll now be 4 after Steve Goff goes away. So listen, you don't get to this point without a severe, I don't know what you call it, like a brain drain, talent drain. This team has no juice. This team has no presence in local sports media. They do not get mentioned at all ever by anyone that isn't already a fan. There's I don't know how you're attracting casuals at this point. They have no outreach. They're not. They have no presence on local media, like paid presence even, because I know it a long time ago they talked about how that didn't have a return on investment for them. It's just dire. It's been dire for so long that yeah, that's going to diminish the coverage of the team. Because what are you going to say? What sicko would do a podcast about this team continually through this stretch? Like, what are you going to say? Everyone feels the same way, and that's why we're here. But we're doing it together. You're listening. This is, someone said it at the start, this is talk therapy. We're doing group therapy. Everyone shares how they're feeling. I try to tell you, don't give up. It'll get better one day, and we all sort of just have to believe that, because otherwise we will have made this investment in time and money and love for nothing. And that just, I've never heard of the sunk cost fallacy. So let's just roll right on with that. OVD says, what is there? The timing could not have been better. What is there to be excited about for this team's future? They sold most of our youth. They fired the young, engaging coach. The roster constantly turns over with journeymen. What does this team think we should feel connection with? Well, with was it the tradition night or tribute night? I think it was tribute night, and the New Jersey that looks like the old jersey. I think that the team is finally leaning back on the nostalgia train. And I think they probably should. If you just look at the average age of our podcast listeners, nostalgia is a very wise move. We finally have some of us have a little bit of disposable income to purchase stupid things that remind us of the better days. What is it to be excited about for this team's future? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have, I should have something. So maybe I'll say Gavin Turner. Maybe I'll say that. And maybe, there just has to, at a certain point, this team has to change. Like I think that Jason Levian knows that if he continues to hold an asset that has become a laughing stock, it's certainly not going to go up anymore. And he might just want to take the money and run, and then see if someone else has a new idea. That's a hope. Maybe that's a positive. That maybe being this inert and boring for so long means that he's no longer interested with this and wants to go do something else at this time. It's totally fine. Or he wins the Powerball and decides to start spending a lot of money, or maybe he starts mining Bitcoin. I don't know. Just conditions change. Maybe that's it. Hope. Hope for the hope's sake is what I've got. And that's all the questions I've got. I appreciate it. I don't know. I think next week I'm in Boston, so maybe Ted will do this. Maybe he wants to cover the Ethiopia game, or you know what? Better yet, let's just assume we won't have a podcast next week. Let's all decide that together. We're deciding it right now as a group. Join our Patreon if you'd like. Patreon.com/RFK Refugees. There was at a time a second weekly show. I can't imagine people wanting that at this point, with the way the team is performing and the lack of news or interesting things to happen. But if you like the show and want it to continue, it, if you want it, it's just like a little bit of sugar to make the medicine go down each week as we try to do this together and hope for the better times to come. The good thing is, think about it. If you are a fan now through the bad times, through the continual bad times and things to get better, I mean, that feels good, right? That's what the Red Sox fans used to say. No one could call you a front runner if that matters to you. There's lots of, you were there first. You were there first. I mean, the 96ers were there through the good and the bad, but you were through the bad and you stayed and you kept subscribing to podcasts and donating to Patreons. And I think that's important. You could tell your kids that in the future. So that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I hope you have a great week. I hope some of you go to the Ethiopia game and send me pictures. And I will talk to you soon. Vamos.